Stop doing that. If the weather changes, your face will stay like that. No, it won't. Yes, it will. No, it won't. Done it loads of times when the weather changed. The wind blew in the opposite direction. My face has always been this ugly. So, this is my second talk today, and I didn't think I'd do another one, but I was inspired by a beautiful lady who just sent me a message. She sent it me about 4 times now, and I think maybe we'll talk about that today. It's something that I don't often talk about. I've done a few, I guess they weren't workshops, they were more circle evenings where I talked about this subject matter. And if some of you have ever watched any of my videos in the past, you might have heard of a video that changed my life completely with regards to a beautiful soul called Shirley. And Shirley was one of my first mentors when I was trying to understand what was happening in my life. So I'm going to start by that story, if you don't mind. And from that story, I'm going to then explain over the next 20 years thereafter what I did for people and how I learned to help people in this particular subject matter. And I have some lovely stories about this subject matter, lots. Maybe one day I'll write a book on that particular subject matter, because it is a beautiful thing, and it's a subject matter that nobody really truly understands fully at all. We just know a little bit about the subject matter. So my life was pretty much chasing my tail like a dog, and for some reason I made the transition with my family to a magical mountain in Spain called Mijas Pueblo, M-I-J-S, Mijas Pueblo. And we came with a few €1,000, a transit van, 2 beds, 2 schnauzers, and our daughter China, and my wife Susie at the time when we were married. It was a very, very difficult moment of my life because I'd never stopped work. Now at this particular moment I had no work and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know who I was, and for sure didn't know why I went to this magical mountain. And it was a challenging time, but it was a time that first time in my life I'd faced my own demons and looked in the mirror, first time. I mean, properly looked in the mirror. And it's not something that you really want to look at too much if you've been neglecting yourself and trying to, I guess, do everything that society and your family and those that say you have to do the right thing, which is get married, have children, make sure you've got a job and work every day, and if you're lucky you go on holiday twice a year. I did all the above. I probably did it better than anybody else. So now having nothing and not knowing who I am and what I'm going to do, it was a time to look at myself, to truly know who you are. Who is this guy? You know, it's like being stripped naked and then, well, who are you? You know, I'm not saying be stripped naked, but I mean, like, take everything away from you. Now who are you? Now is the time you really truly know who you are, and most people will absolutely step into fear because they measure themselves by what car they've got, what husband they've got, you know, how, you know, what job you've got. So imagine having kind of, you know, just, anyway, the point being is I decided to follow a path that was a lot less followed by anybody else, and that was to focus on myself. And that wasn't selfishly, but it was to go inside me and find out who I was and what my purpose was in life, if there was such a thing, if it's really true. So that's what I did. And the more I looked at myself, the more I realized that I was fake fake, meaning that everything that I did was to please other people and to fit into a society. Nothing that I'd done really was really genuine, apart from being kind and caring. That the laughing and the joking and the making people happy was just a distraction, not to really look at who I was. So here I am on a magical mountaintop, trying to find out who I am. And I remember the day I went down into Fuengirola on my motorbike, because I couldn't afford a car. For some strange reason, I passed by a school, and as I passed by this Danish or Swedish school, there was a sign, a big sign up saying something like health and well-being. And I thought, and it looked like the doors were open and people walking in and out. So I walked in, and there were lots of people there, and I have no idea what health and well-being is. I never even looked at it once and what that means. So I'm walking through, and I'm looking at all of these strange people, not knowing what they're all doing, sat down waiting for people to come up to them. But for some reason, I noticed this woman with big black hair, and I don't know why, but I just walked up to her and sat down. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing here. And she said, that's fine. It's what I hear when people used to come to learn pure energy healing. I don't know what I'm doing here. And she knew, just like I know when people come to me not knowing why they're coming to me. They're coming to me because of a higher force, a higher energy, something that we have no understanding. So I sat down, and she asked me to close my eyes. So I did, I closed my eyes, and she started doing some stuff, and I didn't know what she was doing up until a few seconds into it, and then I opened my eyes, and she had one hand like this and one hand down like this, so she was almost like that, and I quickly shut my eyes again because her eyes were shut and I was peeping, right? Anyway, I decided to close my eyes and think, well, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm just sat here doing it. After about 15 minutes, the only thing I can tell you what happened was, it was so unusual that now I can tell you it was profound. And it's really silly because I'm a Yorkshire guy and I take the piss out of everything most of the time. I'm a lot better now. I'm a lot more conservative with that. I'm more careful now. But boy, was I a piss take. You just ask Dominic and from Sheep Farm. You know, we were just lads taking the mick out of each other. No harm, no foul, just joking at everything. So for the first time in my life, I had to understand seriousness instead of jokes. I had to understand that something in this silence was not just serious, but some intentional energy, which was, it wasn't a joke anymore. Like, you stop laughing because something just happened, Mark, and something did happen. Something really profound happened, and I've talked about this particular moment in circle nights, or if I ever do talks, I like to talk about it because I'll tell you basically what happened after, but when she finished, she smiled. And I remember getting up, and I don't even remember paying her. But I remember walking away. And I walked away. I may have paid her. I walked away. And for the first time in my life, nothing mattered. Now, I'm not saying that as a selfish thing, not at all. But what I mean is nothing mattered. And I can't explain it other than that. And as I'm walking, thinking, I also had this clear vision of everything being perfect. And it wasn't an external thing, it was an internal thing. And I'm walking and I didn't even realize, but I had a smile on my face. And I actually started giggling for a moment, because something comes over you which is so profound, and it's not one thing, it's a million things that come into you, and it the feeling of being complete without knowing what complete means is something that you can only understand if you experience it. So then my phone rang, and I was married to Susie at the time, and Susie said, "Where are you?" I says, "I'm in Fuengirola," and I passed by this school, and they've got this like lots of stuff going on, like feet massages and women doing stuff to people. And I said, and I just sat down with this woman, and I feel really strange. Susie started laughing, as she does, because she's Yorkshire. "What's wrong with you? What's up with you? What you're on?" And I'm like, "No, I'm being serious." Mark's never serious. Mark's being serious. Mark wants to tell her that I'm serious. So I'm telling my wife then, "No, Susie, I'm serious." And what came over me was to tell her, I don't need to prove anything anymore. I don't need to prove anything anymore. I don't need to jump on the tables and start dancing and making people laugh. I don't need to fix anything. I don't need to be a clown or a jester. I don't need or want anything. She's laughing her head off as I'm saying this, right? And she said, "Yeah, I'll see you when you get home." Puts the phone down. Of course she didn't understand. Nobody would understand unless you're in that energy. Because I didn't know what it was, but I felt something that had changed in me. Something had happened, and I've never felt like that in my life. And I still hold that energy to this day. It was more profound in that moment, because it's like having a crystal, like a MOLDAVITE. It's more profound in that moment, and then it kind of wears off, but it's still there. So I went to this lady, I went back to this lady, she smiled again, and I says, "Could you tell me what you just did?" And she says, "Okay, sit down." And then she was very pleasant. She started to explain something to me. She said, "Today, what I'm doing is something called soul retrieval." And I'm like, "All right, I don't know what that means, but okay." And I'm listening, and she says, "As I work on people, I start to see certain points in their life where something's happened to them. And it was a shock moment, and it can be in this life or it can be in a past life. And there is no space and time, so we're looking for part of your soul. And normally when we retrieve part of your soul, it's because something very dramatic happened. It could have been a fall down the stairs. It could have been somebody doing something really bad to you. It could be anything." And she said, so when I went into this mode to try and retrieve part of your soul, she said, "I was in your body as a past life, and you were a Native American, and you had somebody by your side, but it was a male, and you also had a dog right by your side. And as I looked through your eyes, I saw you peeking over the mountain top where there was lots of smoke. And what you saw then had caused part of your soul to stay where it was. You ran down the mountain and you saw your village slaughtered. Your mother, your father, your children, your wife. You ran towards your wife next to your child and you held them in your arms, and it was at that point where I retrieved your soul. I went, okay, thanks for that. Didn't really mean anything to me. But what I couldn't mistake and I couldn't argue or prove, or not prove, but what I could say wholeheartedly, something happened to me. And all of those things that I mentioned to you of how I feel now, is exactly what happened. So it was intriguing because something physical, mentally and emotional happened to me in that session. I went away, and to this day I became a student of Shirley's for a good few years, and in that time she taught me many things: flower reading, how to read flowers. She taught me how to read the cards. She taught me how to meditate and also connect with spirit. She taught me many things that I think for the first time I was a good pupil. I was never a pupil before. I was a terrible pupil at school. I was terrible. But this was like, I couldn't wait for Tuesdays and I couldn't wait till Friday, because I knew I had a whole night from 6 o'clock till sometimes 10, 11 with Shirley to learn all the things that I've shared with people in the way of helping them over these 2 decades. So let's talk about soul retrieval. Soul retrieval happens on a healing level where a lot of healers don't even realize. So you can be giving a healing session, and without even knowing, you can bring back part of your client's soul and not even know. So that tells you it's a natural thing. That's why healing is important to have. Energy healing does more than just what you think, oh, it's just a healing session. No, it's far more than that. So many things can happen on a healing session. But one of them is soul retrieval. And sometimes you can intentionally try and look for a soul, part of a soul that you have left somewhere. And it's like it's been punched out of you. So if you've been raped, part of your soul can be left at that particular place. If you've had a bad accident, part of your soul can just break off and just stay there. If there's been a traumatic event of a member of family and something bad has happened and you're there, you can leave part of your soul there without even realizing. People have often asked me why this happens, and it's something to do with fear and shock, and something kind of happens that I don't know whether it's a form of protection or it's a form of healing in the particular moment of losing a family member or being in pain because you're being raped. There's something happens where in that energy it tends to stay right there. And I don't have the answers to why it happens per se. I've got my thoughts and feelings, but I couldn't say wholeheartedly. But what I can say is that there are times that when you've been through such a traumatic stress, and you often feel like something's missing, or some people will say after they've been raped or abused as a child or a boy that they're never the same again. What they're actually saying is that they've left something behind and they're no longer complete. So you would probably say I'm no longer myself, because you're not the whole. But if you can find somebody who can naturally be a beautiful healer and retrieve that, whether in a very natural way and either the healer doesn't even know but it's been brought in, there is something that happens to your client that they will say that they're in a deep peace. They'll say that I've never felt like this before, or I can't remember the last time I felt like this. And sometimes healers can see, it's like a visualization when your eyes are closed. And there were times when I saw people fall down the stairs, and at the bottom of the stairs they broke their neck and they're dead at the bottom of the stairs. And the feeling of picking that soul and bringing it back into the soul that I'm working on is soul retrieval. There are many ways of bringing that soul back, but it's a natural way. It's not something that you have to train per se. You just have to basically see what's going on. You see, oh my God, I saw what just happened there. So were you a soul retrieval expert? No, it was a natural phenomena, but you played a part in because you're the vessel for this to happen and create. So some people will say that they are experts at soul retrieval, and maybe they are, maybe they've got it down to a T, but for me, it happened every now and again. Just like if I go to a place where somebody's been killed, right? When I get to that place, I can feel their soul. But that's only part of their soul. It might not be all their soul, because there is no space and time, and then there may be another lifetime that they're living already. So that soul that you're working on, their whole soul may be in another experience, life experience. So when you're sending that soul into the light, what you're doing is you're actually sending them back to their wholeness. So they could be in our spirit world, in that beautiful ocean that they're a drop of. So they go back into the ocean, or they go back into somebody that is already in a living body. So they're in a living body living. And thus, sometimes you can hear certain things happen to people where they are at a spiritual place, or they're just walking in Mother Nature, or they can be sat down at home and all of a sudden they get the same feeling as having a healing session and saying that something profound came over them. Now, this is very rare, right? And they say that they've never felt like this before. And I'm like, oh, I've heard that before, and I went through that. So how come you went through it? Maybe somebody helped you without you even knowing at that time and place where they helped your consciousness, your spirit, that drop in the ocean of part of you, they brought back to you. So when we are sending healing, when we are working on trapped spirit, or spirit in denial, or spirit just being there because of an accident and part of their spirit is there, we send that spirit home. So it could go to somebody else who is the full complete energy of that spirit. So it's now finally putting that all together. Or it could go back home into this beautiful ocean that we come from. So that's kind of the short version, the bullet points of soul retrieval. And it goes a lot deeper. Of course it goes a lot deeper. You're going to be shouting at the screen and asking me loads of questions, which I don't answer because now we've got plonkers always coming on, so I've just not all of those. But I don't normally answer them anyway because I can't do two things at once. I can't chew chewing gum and walk at the same time. So I share with you what I feel at the moment. So maybe, just maybe, after listening to this, you might go and sit down and maybe try to bring your soul back, or part of your soul back yourself. Maybe you can try and sit and meditate and see a past life and maybe what happened to you in a past life, or maybe in this life that something happened to you at a certain point where you got beat by your dad or your best friend or a stranger, or you got raped, or something really bad happened. And maybe you can relive that moment and claim part of your soul back again and ask for it back. Intention is a powerful thing. Trust and believe in yourself is a powerful thing. There's only one healer in this world, and it's you. Or if you feel like you can't do it because you're in physical pain, or you feel like you just can't do it, then find an energy healer. Or find somebody who says that they do past life soul retrieval or soul retrieval. And I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody, but there's something in it. And I recognize there's so many jigsaw pieces to this world, and I think it's vast, but it's also so connected. Everything that we go through is so connected in a unique way that when we move into the light, we see that it was far more simpler than what we created in our mind. And for the years that I've tried to put the pieces together, sometimes things really do kind of make sense. And you went, wow, now I understand that. But that takes time, and it takes clients, and it takes a lot of work through experience and hours of practice. But that's my conclusion today. And maybe one of you might watch this and think, oh, actually, I've never felt good in this life. I've always felt that there's something missing. I've never felt like other people sometimes feel like joy and laughter, and why am I never joyful, and why don't I laugh like they do? What is wrong with me? Why can't I feel what they feel? Maybe they have their soul intact, and maybe some of us just don't, because we left it behind because of the reasons, like I said, to bring comfort, protection, something that we did there that was a natural thing that we did, and now we reclaim that back to be whole. It's something to think about. It's something to ponder on. Take it, leave it, chuck it away, laugh at it, mock it, or do what you want. Move forward with it. I don't know. But I share this wholeheartedly and truthfully, that it changed my life. And I don't need to jump on tables anymore and make people laugh. I don't need to do anything anymore. I don't fear anymore. I don't worry like I worried before. I don't panic about things anymore, because of that moment that I got this new feeling of everything is okay. I think we only truly ever understand that when we move into the light, when we realize that everything was always okay, no matter how dark it is, no matter how bad everything is, it's all as it should be. It's okay. And there is no pain, there is no suffering, there is no fear. And maybe bringing that soul, part of that soul back, gives us a glimpse, just a little glimpse, because I don't think we are the whole. I think we're only the whole when we go back into the ocean that we come from. And that is the only time we really truly understand everything. But until that time, we keep working on ourselves and building ourselves up and being the happiest we can be, and the more loving we can be, and the more light we can be. That's all we can do. So from my heart to your heart, from a beautiful Ubud Valley, I think this will be the last chat that I'll have with you at an inspirational place in the heart of Ubud, in the jungle. I wish you a lovely day from the bottom of my heart. Lovely day, really lovely day. Take care, everybody. I'll leave you with a little bit of a view. There you go. Okay, bye for now. See you back in Spain, everybody. Take care.